Go ahead.
Good evening, all our fellow counselors out there, and welcome to Scary Stories by the Campfire. We are your hosts tonight, Jason,
And Jeremy.
and tonight we have a treat for you because we are at the end of our Nightmare on Elm Street series, at least the official run before we get to our crossover uh, movie. But tonight we're going to be talking about Wes Craven's A New Nightmare. So, Jeremy, started us off. How do you feel about this movie?
Okay, well, first off, it was better than Freddy's Dead. Let's just throw that out
We
there.
can we can agree.
Um, I actually liked it better than Dream Master and Dream Child.
Ouch, that hurts.
Um, I liked it. I did. I thought the idea was creative. I thought um, the execution was decent. There was a couple hiccups in it that weren't really my taste. One thing I did appreciate was the I liked how they went back to kind of like the dark tones with Freddy, especially in the beginning of the movie, kind of like the original where they kept him in the dark most of the movie. I did like that, but I wasn't so much a fan of the makeup itself, especially towards the end of the movie when they started showing him more. Like I liked the trench coat. I liked his outfit. I loved the glove, the claws, the finger knives. I loved all that, but his actual facial makeup, I just was not a big fan of.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on a lot of those points. And it's funny that you mentioned that you like the darker aspect of it, of like the Freddy itself, because technically this isn't Freddy Krueger. Okay, for all of you who have not seen the movie, highly recommend you go see it. Um, but it's kind of a meta film. It's almost like Scream before Scream,
2 years
and
before Scream.
yeah, and what it is the actress who plays Nancy, Heather Langenkamp, Langenkamp, yeah.
Yeah.
She actually plays herself, and a lot of this movie focuses on like the behind the scenes people. You see like a lot of um, people act as themselves. You have Wes Craven makes an appearance. Robert England makes an appearance. Even a couple of the CEOs who work at uh,
New Line Cinema.
was it New Line? New
Yeah.
Line Cinema.
Brian
You get to
Shea.
see, yep, you get to see him portray himself in the movie, and pretty much what it is it's a very meta film because I guess the premise of it is Wes Craven is having these nightmares and he's writing down the script, and as he's writing it down it's happening at the same time, and apparently this Freddy Krueger entity, which I think in the way that I see it, it is an entity that kind of attaches itself to the Krueger idea. um, but going back, this was actually a movie that Wes Craven wanted to do because this is what his idea of the Dark Freddy was. This is how he actually wanted his movie to continue, or his series to continue, instead of getting like that campy feel. Um, so
Absolutely.
he did go and take it back to the roots, and I do appreciate that. It definitely was a kind of an eye opener because it's been a while since I've seen it, and it's good. I do like it. I'm not gonna put it above Dream Warriors because that's just me, um, but yes, the Freddy in this one was a very kind of he was a very dark Freddy, and he didn't make a whole lot of jokes and whatnot. But I do like the sense that they did do a lot of callbacks to the older movies with the sticky steps.
The
When
stick,
she's trying
yep.
to
And the
when
screw
she's
your
falling in
hall
there.
pass.
Yep, and the ceiling.
Yep.
where it took what's her face up, the one of the earlier victims, but
Julie. No, it was the
Julie.
babysitter.
But yeah, I actually enjoyed this movie a whole lot. I like the idea behind it, and I don't know if you noticed because I just did say that it was like Scream before Scream on how meta it was. There was it felt to me like there was a lot of Scream to this. Like this was like the birth child of Scream
I
because she's getting the phone calls,
I was
and
thinking the same thing.
the first time the phone call rings, she picks it up and he's like, "Ah." It's like the same sounding voice of like Ghostface on the other side, and I'm just like on the other side
it it
cracking jokes at it.
it was because like the first phone call, he's like, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. But he says it like really fast. He's like, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, and then hangs up. And I'm like, wait, what?
Like
And then he
Ghostface, you're in
calls
the wrong
back,
movie.
and I'm like, oh wow. So, yeah, I have to agree. Like, it was cool. I agree with you. I thought seeing all these people like reprise these roles was really cool. Seeing like you said, Wes Craven come back to actually not only write and direct it and to be able to put his one of his original ideas out there for it, but also to be able to be in the movie, I thought was pretty cool. And then seeing Heather come back and actually like watching Robert England act outside of the Freddy makeup, out of that Freddy persona, was kind of cool
Yeah,
to see.
he seems like such a nice guy in the movie. He's just
I mean, from what I've read, he actually he's a very nice guy. Uh, but it was good to see all that come back, and I thought it was very well done. Um, but like I said, the whole Freddy like face makeup, um, it just didn't work for me.
I think
Um,
there was a reason for that, but I can't. I may have to look it up.
well, I
Um,
did know Wes Craven said, like you said, it depicted much closer to what he wanted or he originally intended for the character. Much more menacing, much less comical, and stuff like that. And you got those tones out of this movie with an updated attire and appearance. I liked, like, did you like the trench coat on him?
yeah, I
I
mean, the hat was kind of weird because I think it was like a green color.
Yeah,
It was almost kind of like an olive green. It just kind of didn't stick for me as much as like the old dark kind of black fedora or whatever that he wears in the older movies. But I mean, I didn't mind the trench coat. I didn't mind the crazy electrical claw thing or whatever that he had going on. Um, I mean, the overall design was fine for me.
well, he said
And
right before his death in 2015, Craven did say he regretted changing the outside appearance of his face, um, and said if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which is why he never changed the ghost face mask in any of the Scream movies.
yeah, I mean, I think in this movie it works that they changed his face because it's not the Freddy Krueger. It is, I guess you could say it's like a fake Krueger. Um, because I guess it's when they kill him in the end, he turns into like a devil.
He did.
There's like this transformation scene where he transforms into a demon or devil or something right before he explodes. So in my opinion, he's not actually Freddy Krueger. He is some sort of evil entity that's piggybacking off the idea of what a Nightmare on Elm Street is. So he's got kind of the look going on. He's kind of got the claw going on. So to me, um, that's just what I see, and that at least for me explains why he looks different. He's not the same Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, and I just popped the picture up with them and with him having the more demonic look. And like I said, I loved the finger knives in this one. I thought they matched the tone of the movie. I thought they were. It was very well done. That they didn't try to do the same thing, kind of like what you were saying, where it's not supposed to be, Robert England's Freddy Krueger, this, that, and another. Um, but to answer Raven's question, if we ever found out who was calling, it actually was. Okay, so the movie, the stalker is the one calling Heather, but it was based off of a real stalker who was stalking Heather at the time, and Wes Craven got permission from her to weave it into this movie. So the
Yeah,
caller
it did.
was a stalker, and it's the same one, based off the same one who was already stalking Heather in real life, which is kind
Hmm.
of interesting to think about. Um,
So it, well, I mean, I guess the earlier portion of the movie was the actual stalker later on in the movie because I'm pretty sure the stalker's not the one sticking his tongue through the phone
what is
like in
up
the
with Freddy? I've noticed that Freddy Krueger uses his tongue a lot.
yeah, and you don't like it stabbed either apparently. The end when he had it like wrapped around her head or whatever, and the kid pulls out that knife is trying to trying to pin it down and stab it. And Freddy had like this look in his face like, "Oh my god." And the kid's just like trying to stab it and they're playing like remember in Aliens?
Yeah.
Or doing the finger thing with the knife through the fingers or whatever. That's what it looked like. He was just trying to like stab the tongue, and the tongue's just wiggling around. And Freddy's got this look on his face like, please, please, please don't, please don't, please. And then you know,
Yeah.
but
Oh man. Yeah.
he was a very menacing Freddy Krueger, but I don't think he played as well towards the end of the movie. I mean, he did a lot of stalking and jumping out and stuff like that, but I think he got beat relatively easily.
I was not a fan. Like, I think the last like 15 to 20 minutes of the movie, it kind of went like it was going really well, and then it just kind of like fell, in my opinion. The last like 20 minutes, I was not a fan of. That whole last like little fight scene between Heather, her son, and Fred, like it just to me it didn't feel like it held up to what was it was building to.
Yeah, they he what took him to some sort of
Basically, the
mystical.
set from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, I guess it was. I guess I really didn't notice that.
It was like
I
the
don't think
set
they
from the very beginning of the movie.
almost
Uh,
looked like some sort of like Greek or Roman temple or something like that. Some sort of
yeah. So let's look at the few kills that we had in the entire movie. I think we only had like two or three.
mm,
Husband, babysitter,
and the two technicians in the beginning.
and the two techs at the beginning. So
That's
four.
about four.
Uh, the only one that stood out to me was Julie.
Yeah, I in this one I don't think there this Freddy gets no creative points at all. He
I give him some
in the
creative points for the babysitter one, only for the simple fact that nobody could see him except for Dylan.
Dylan.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and it was a good little reenactment from the first movie because in the first movie I don't think you ever get to see him.
You don't you
She's just floating around and she's getting slammed up on the roof and she's being cut and sliced and she's bleeding all over the place, but you don't ever get to see him. This one I thought was actually done, in my opinion, was better because you can actually see him. They do shots where you can't see him, then they show shots where you can, and you see him just kind of like grab her and drag her up the wall or whatever. And I think they used the same technique that they did with the first one, which was like a rotating set,
yeah.
so they could flip the sets on their side so that they could do wall shots and stuff like that. And you get to see like him actually kind of taunt her and menace her and drag her around and kind of smack her around. Did he snap her neck? Is that what he did? Because I blinked and she was dead.
I
I
couldn't
think that's
tell.
what he did. I that's the only problem I have with that because she's like, oh no no, and you're like, oh, he's gonna just slice her up, and obviously he's like, hey Dylan,
I will say
I'm like,
this
what?
this scene had my favorite line in the entire movie, and it was where he looked at Dylan and was like, "Have you ever played Skin the Cat?" And I'm just like, "What?"
Is is that specific to something? I don't know, but um, oh yes, Raven brought up the creativity with the Dylan when
Oh,
I guess he was semi possessed,
oh, and he
and he
built
had
his own.
he taped all those like little steak knives to his fingers. He was like he looked like a little mini Freddy Krueger. I do like the fact that Freddy was kind of possessing this kid. I think that's what he was doing. He was
it
possessing this kid.
it kind of reminded me of part two.
Yeah, they did have a little bit of flavoring in there with part two. This was almost like if you took like all of the movies and kind of squished them together a little bit. You took like little elements from all the movies because you had like the little elements from the first movie with the Julie's death and and the steps and some of those things, but then you have kind of the possession thing where you're talking about like part two, but also Dream Child. He's using actual like a child to, and apparently only Dylan had to fall asleep.
Yeah,
'Cause,
I
yeah,
noticed that.
you put him to sleep, and then he kind of runs rampant and is able to kill people, but then you have him like over the big busy highway puppeteering the kid. A lot of it didn't
Oh
make sense, but was pretty fun
my
to
god. I
watch
was
and
laughing
see.
at that scene because I was like, it's like a giant game of Frogger, but you know how many traffic crashes and pileups that would have caused? And
Did you not
actually,
see how many traffic crashes and pileups they did have in that movie? No one on that highway was getting anywhere. It's just two people, and if someone out there's like, look at this little bobbing kid just bouncing around. Um,
so, but let's talk about practical effects. This movie had a lot of them. I only really saw one really bad CGI scene, which was the weird sky thing. It was like the sky opened up, and I think it was right before the highway scene.
I'm gonna. I didn't notice a lot of practical effects. I know like the claw and the stuff like that, and the way things are functioning are all considered practical, but I did see a lot of CGI, like the glove coming out of the car seat,
Yeah,
stuff like that. Which I don't know if I would consider it good or bad. I think it's just kind of mediocre for its time because we're talking like what 94.
yeah, 94.
So CGI, looking at CGI from that point of view, you're going. I mean, when the gloves came out, like the car seat, there was like a small ripple effect, like it was coming out of water, which I didn't really care for, but
I
it is what
just
it is.
I just like how they built this set, like with the coffin scene where he like drags the kid under.
Oh, that had that fun little tunnel slide.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I
very
thought that
fun
was
taste.
really cool. Like, cause like in the picture it shows Freddy pulling him through the. Man, that must suck. You fall down into a hole with your dead daddy in a coffin, and Freddy's like dragging you past.
No, that's not the scene that led to the tunnel slide. The tunnel slide was the one in the bed.
Oh yeah,
That was towards the end of the movie. But yeah, she was crawling through that thing. The thing looked like it was like a mile long. She's crawling up underneath there, and it's yeah, yeah. I'd get claustrophobic in there. Then you have to try to get your way back out. You have to get around the. She did take some solid shots to the head. I'm saying that they in those earthquake things that kept going on.
oh
Oh,
dude.
did you that the earthquake that happened in the movie? I
Oh,
don't know if that happened while they were.
oh, I know what you're talking about. No, so the shots that they filmed of the earthquake, like the aftermath, it happened like a week and a half after they finished filming. And Wes Craven sent a team out to go film it, and they wanted to compare, and they ended up putting the stuff from the real earthquake in the movie.
Yeah. That's what I was getting at. Was that a lot of those
I
shots of
read
like the
that.
earthquake damage, like the stuff you
Yeah.
see on the news and stuff. That's all actual damage that was out there.
Uh, Robert Englund has actually said that this is his favorite movie of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
This is his favorite.
This is his favorite.
That's that's a high compliment right there. Did he say specifically why? Maybe it was because he got to play himself and Freddy Krueger all in the same movie.
And I think that might be it. It doesn't say why. He just says it's his favorite, but it's funny cuz that you mentioned that cuz I guess at the end of the credit like during the credit scenes, Freddy Krueger is credited as himself. Even though it's Robert Englund playing him, it says Freddy Krueger as himself.
Hmm,
Um,
interesting.
but yeah, they man, he said and then there was another thing that I saw that was interesting and it kind of jumps back to what we talked about during Freddy's Dead and, Dream Child. I guess before making this one, Wes Craven went back and watched every Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And he said by the time he had finished, he claimed that he could not follow the storyline at all. And he further
Thank
regards
you.
the sequels to be a weak compared to the original.
Yeah, and I'm actually that's what I think I like most about this movie is that you don't have to really watch any of the other movies because it doesn't tie into anything. It's almost like you can almost think of it as like a reboot to an extent. It's probably more of just a step out of the main series. Like you can watch the main series and you go, okay, I'm kind of getting this, don't really get this, but then when you watch this movie, that's what the movie series is. It's a movie series that these, you know, and I think that's why this one actually ranks up pretty high with me is because they're stepping out of the box literally, and it's an interesting concept. I like it.
I agree. And one of the original ideas I guess they had for this movie was it was supposed to be called A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 7 Ascension. And
No,
Wes Craven and New Line Cinema thought that they didn't want it to be part of that convoluted storyline of stuff and make it another sequel to this series. They wanted something different. So I'm glad that they did not go with that.
I do not know of a good movie that has the title Ascension in there. It's almost like Resurrection. Any movie that has Resurrection is a bad movie. I don't know why. Alien Resurrection, you know.
Resident
Um,
Evil.
yeah, is there Resurrection in that one?
I think so. I don't know. I haven't.
I'm pretty sure there's one in there somewhere. But
Halloween.
yeah, Halloween Resurrection. Ooh, ooh. That's almost like the Freddy's Dead um of the scenario because it's just so stupid.
I
It's so
cannot wait to
stupid.
talk about that one. That one's gonna be fun. Uh,
Kung Fu, Kung Fu, Kung Fu Michael. Stupid, stupid movie. Fun to
uh,
watch though. That's the great thing. That's the great thing. When just because we say it's a bad movie doesn't mean it can't be fun to watch.
so
Freddy's. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Freddy's Dead's probably the more interesting movie that we watched because it was just so stupid you could laugh at it almost entirely. Don't have to take it seriously.
so funny enough, and I wish they would have kept this in the movie. Um, I read that there was actually a scene in the script where they were supposed to have a Robert Englund Freddy Nightmare. And it was
I did
supposed to
read
be
this.
a spider-like web. He was supposed to be stuck on a spider-like web, and Freddy was supposed to be a giant spider, similar to a Black Widow, with the red symbol having a red and green stripe. And
Yeah, it was.
it got cut due to, apparently, according to England, it was dropped because it didn't fit the tone of the movie. But a lot of people said it was due to budget issues.
Yeah, I don't see the thing with this movie is that you're not seeing a whole lot of creative kills. You know, you're seeing you see him Freddy just kind of stab people. There's no like, and I think that's another limitation, at least in my opinion, from the entity itself not being Freddy Krueger. It's an imitation of Freddy Krueger. And I did read that. I did read that there was supposed to be. I don't know if it was supposed to be a full blown death scene, but yeah, it was supposed to be kind of like an homage to the original Fly movie, Vincent Price,
Yeah.
where he would somehow get transformed. And I think it had something to do with the paintings he was working on, because in the movie Robert Englund is also an artist, and you get to see him kind of paint and stuff. And I don't know if it was a segment where he turns into this small fly-like being and gets trapped in like a painting of the web or whatever, but then you have the entity come out as like this Freddy Krueger spider,
I
like you were saying. Like I said, I don't know if they killed off England in that or if it was just something a play, but that would have been interesting to see.
I was about to say, I think it would be. I would think it would be cool to have seen a Robert Englund nightmare with Freddy in it.
Robert England killing Robert England.
Like, I think that would have been a funny
Actually,
concept to watch. Like, I thought it'd be a cool one to watch. Just saying.
actually, you know what? There is a movie out there that Robert England was in. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was called like Galaxy of Fear or Galaxy of or Planet of Fear or something like that. It was one of the I think it was one of England's earlier movies, but it's like this space horror movie or whatever, and he actually ends up having to. I guess this planet that they land on has something to do with fear, and it like attacks people with their own fears. And for some reason, Robert England has to fight himself. I don't know why, but he does, and it's just a
Oh
him and
my god.
him battle. And there's like no makeup. It's not like a monster version of him. It's just him and him duking it out. I'm like, man, this movie's weird, but
That's
yeah.
interesting. Um. Oh man. Oh god. So apparently they the whole scene with Heather and on TV during the interview,
Mm-hmm.
that's apparently based off a true story where
Oh,
Wes
really?
Craven was having an interview and he ran into Robert Englund and they decided to do something similar and all the kids were chanting, getting tongue tied, Freddy over and over again. Not the adults, the kids. And the
Well,
parents were apparently horrified.
I mean, those were those were different days back then. Days back then, horror movies were, you know, made for. I guess they were made for like young adults, teenagers, and stuff like that. It was kind of their. I guess because adults seem to hate them. Adults, critics were like, horror movies. It's just awful, grotesque things. And nowadays, horror is like for everybody. Like, I have two kids, and I'm not gonna sit them down and have them. They don't. They're just exposed to a lot of it. I mean, they've not seen a lot of horror movies, but I mean, like my youngest wants to be Chucky for Halloween. How? I don't know why. I mean, she's never seen any Chucky material, never seen Child's Play or anything like that. I asked her, she was like, it was an ad. She saw a commercial and was like, "That's what I want."
She wants.
Year before,
She doesn't want
year
to be
before,
Chucky. She wants to be a good guy doll.
she wants to be a good guy doll. Year before that, it was they wanted to co-team up as Pennywise and Georgie. How? Why? I don't know. It's just what they wanted to do, and I'm like, you go out and buy Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees T-shirts for babies nowadays. Horror is just a genre that everyone can enjoy. I wish they would make. Here's the thing about it is that I wish they would make more horror movies for younger people. Kind of get them started early. Not jump them right into the pool with like Hostel or Cabin Fever or anything like that. But like what was that one? The one about the book, the scary stories to
Oh,
what's the name of that movie?
uh,
Oh, we're gonna be kicking myself for this.
I
But,
am
but you know
too.
what I'm talking
If
about.
anybody, if anybody out there knows what we're talking about, um, it's a
What is it? Scary stories to tell in the dark, something like that.
yeah, yeah. It's Quentin Tarrant or not Quentin, Guillermo del Toro. Guillermo,
Yeah,
it's his movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. See that one? That was could be something similar for younger audience. I think it's what a PG-13 movie.
Yeah,
But I think the problem is nowadays PG-13 movies, they're just not good. Every time I see like a really good horror movie trailer, I'm like, oh, this is good. This looks good, and it's like PG-13. I'm like, no, oh, you ruined it.
it's horrible now.
Yeah, some of them are.
So, real quick, just a random little tidbit before we get into Rotten Tomatoes. Um, take a guess at which two actresses were considered for the role of Julie.
Whew.
So think about the time.
So we're talking about 1994.
What two big actresses were big during the 90s, especially that time?
I'm gonna go with Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Nope.
Ah, okay. Well, then I don't know.
Winona Ryder
She's just in there for everything.
and Drew Barrymore.
Ooh, Drew Barrymore could have gone double. She could have been killed by Krueger and Ghostface.
Unfortunately, both had prior commitments with other projects, but yeah, they were
Yeah,
both uh, considered for the role of Julie.
I mean, I don't really know who this actress is who played Julie, but I thought she was all right. Actually, her character was supposed to be kind of a red herring. She was supposed to, because I guess there was also a little bit of mystery in there about like who the stalker is, and she was supposed to be someone who was. I guess the original idea was she was supposed to be someone who was working with the stalker, but between that and that creepy limo driver,
So
that guy was weird.
there's another homage to another Robert Englund movie in this one that I actually just read just now that I did not know, but where when Robert tells Heather about like how the fans want to see them together again in another movie, um, and she responds with, "In what, a romantic comedy?" And he responds,
Uh,
"Just because it's a love story doesn't mean it can't have a decapitation or two." It's in reference to him playing in The Phantom of the Opera, which is a tragic love story with a
that involves the.
it
Hey,
has a decapitation or two.
he was in Phantom of the Opera.
1989.
Hmm.
I didn't know that,
I, I didn't know they had a 1989 movie unless I'm thinking of something else.
but
Hmm.
so
Interesting. Interesting.
I know, right? So let's go into Rotten Tomatoes. We started
Rotten
so for people
Tomatoes.
joining us as this being your first one, um, yeah, Buck Hunt said, yeah, they aren't any good.
I think he was talking about those PG-13 movies we were talking about
Yeah,
earlier.
they're not
At
any
least that's,
good. That's
at least. I mean, some of them are. You can find a decent one here or there, but I think a lot of times they just kind of dumb down everything for a younger audience. I think it needs to still be sharp and witty and well written. I mean, I think I saw one. What was it? Darkness Falls. Is that one with the Tooth Fairy?
I think so.
Yeah, that was terrible.
So
That's
for
terrible.
anybody joining us for this is your first time, last week we started uh, well we like to go off our Rotten Tomatoes scores and see if we agree with them. You have the tomato meter, which is critics reviewing, and then the audience score, which is everybody else. So
Yeah, it's kind of like a agree to disagree type of thing.
exactly. So Jason, Wes Craven's A New Nightmare. Audience
I'm already
score.
I'm already gonna have a feeling I'm gonna disagree with this.
66%
That was what the audience?
audience.
Audience was a 66.
I don't agree. I think it should be about an 85.
Ooh.
80 between
I,
80 and 85. The last 15 to 20 minutes killed it for me.
I can only think that it was gotten that low because people were probably expecting some sort of continuation, and they sat down and was like, "What is going on?"
You're probably onto something with that one. They're expecting a new sequel to continue the storyline.
Which, I mean, come on, really? Do you guys want a continuation of Freddy's Dead? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, man.
Rubbish, rubbish. I disagree with that. I wouldn't say. Oh, what'd you say? You said 80 to
80,
85?
80 to 85.
It was a 66.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this movie, at least audience-wise, I would think it'd be a little bit higher. Probably, I would say at least audience-wise, maybe like a 76, 77.
Okay. And
Because,
for
like I said, I think it was pretty good, but I think it was just so different from the other movies that it just didn't really fit what people were expecting.
absolutely. And the tomato meter,
What did
79.
critics thought it was a 79. I would agree with that.
And that is
I
a
mean,
massive jump from the 23% that Freddy's Dead got.
yeah.
I
Well,
will agree with the 79% like you.
we had different directors with those other movies too.
Yes, Wes
Like,
Craven actually wrote and directed this one.
yeah. So I think here's the thing about writers and directors and stuff like that. I think it just seems to me that people who write their movies and direct them usually do a little bit better. I mean, I could be wrong. There's probably several movies out there that are like that, but I'm thinking of
Terrell.
like Jeremy. You watch The Room all the time.
I sure do.
It's a bad movie, yes, but it's fun to watch. But I'm talking about like guys like James Gunn, who
Uh,
usually writes and directs his own stuff. Wes Craven, I think, does a lot of that. He writes and directs his own stuff. Was he the? Did he do Swamp Thing? Wes Craven.
I the original Swamp Thing,
Halloween. Who created Halloween? That
John
was
Carpenter.
John Carpenter. Wes Craven did Swamp Thing. Yeah, I knew it was one of the big guys because I was like, so and so did Swamp Thing, really? And
John
I don't know if you
Carpenter also wrote it. He also wrote
John
Halloween.
Carpenter. So yeah, you see, usually I think guys who write their own stuff and direct their own stuff have a specific vision in mind. Now that could change a lot with like studios because studios have a lot of say. You can have this writer director come in here and make the perfect movie that they want, and if the studio doesn't like it, they'll butcher it,
Oh yeah.
and it's a shame really. So I think that's why this one got so much better because it was well written. In my opinion, it was well written. It was much more interesting than continuing a story that was kind of just scrubbing the bottom, and it was just better to. Did Heather seem more alive in this movie than she did in her other two movies?
I was wondering if you were gonna ever bring that up. Yes, she seemed to do a lot more and seemed to be more like enthusiastic with her acting. It wasn't so melodramatic. Because it was funny. You're sitting there watching her, and every time she would walk past the TV that had the original Nightmare on Elm Street playing, I was like comparing her acting between the
Okay,
two, and I'm just sitting there going, "Yeah, you know what? She was very
I,
bland then, and now she's
I mean,
not."
you could probably chalk that up to her being younger at that time, but it could also be, they're just probably up on set going, "Hey, Heather, do your thing, be you." That's well, that's what makes this interesting. Is it's you playing you. I like
Yeah.
how she did get the little white in her hair, kind of like she did in uh the original Nightmare.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think?
Scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give this movie. I'm gonna give this movie I'm gonna give this movie a 7. No, you know what? I'm gonna give it a 7.5. Yep, bump it 8. I'll just give it an 8. I like this movie. I liked a lot of stuff about this movie, and so I'm gonna give it an 8.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 7.5.
7.5.
It doesn't beat the original.
I don't even remember what I gave the original.
I think I gave it an 8, if I'm not mistaken. So with that though, with this being the last one in the original series, Jason, I'll start off with the.
Technically, I wouldn't really call this the finale to the original series. I
I
take this as kind of a sidestep. I think I would say Freddy's Dead is like the last. And I think we had this discussion earlier. This is kind of like Spiral from the
Yeah.
Book of Saw. It's just kind of, except it's more outside. Because Spiral is just kind of a sidestep of what was going on in Saw, while this one is more of just like, hey, all those Nightmare movies, they're actually movies, and this is just a movie in the real world. So,
Well,
but
still,
yeah,
top list. Number one. After rewatching all of these movies back to back every week, which has been a very fun experience, I might add.
and very educational,
Very
very
educational.
educational.
First one is gonna be Dream Warriors.
You're ah, no, you're changing enough on me, Jeremy. Um, that's your number one. That's
It's
your
a
number one.
it's a tie.
It's a tie between Dream Warriors and
The original.
the original.
Both
I'm gonna
have their
go.
positives and negatives, but the two it's they the positives of both hold them both up to the same standard.
I'm not gonna tie them. I'm gonna say my number one is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 Dream Warriors. Hands down.
So what's your number two then?
Number 2 is definitely the original. And like I said, it's very close, but I think the way I think why I give Dream Warriors the edge is because in my opinion, Freddy is perfect in that movie. He is dark, he is sadistic, he is manipulative, but he also has the one-liner quips and stuff that make you kind of go, that's actually kind of funny. And so, in my opinion, that has the the best Freddy, in my opinion, and it's actually kind of the peak of at least the story arc because when you start thinking of Nightmare on Elm Street, you're always thinking about people fighting against Freddy with powers. They never did that in the first movie,
What
so
powers?
hey, look, you can walk, okay? You can walk in your dream.
All right, so
It's
number three.
power.
I'm gonna have to say, A New Nightmare is number three. I know you want to say Freddy's dead, Jason. I know you do. I can see it on your
Ooh.
face. Number
I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna agree with number 3 is going to be A New Nightmare. And just because it's just a different perspective of movie. It's something that you wouldn't see coming, and the homages that they did make in the movie to the earlier movies, they all do make sense. It's not just they throw it in there for funsies. He's not making some one line joke that doesn't make any sense in this context because he said it in a later or earlier movie. So I think this one was very well done, and it was very. If this was the first time that I had seen it, it'd be relatively creepy. But I mean, I've seen this before, so but I do enjoy it all the
All
time.
right, so that was number three. So number four, I'm gonna have to go with Dream Child as number four.
Ooh, number four. I'm gonna cut you on that one. I'm gonna go Dream Master.
I
I
say
have to put
Dream
Dream.
Child just because I liked the idea of going through the sleeping pregnant baby idea. I liked that better than her absorbing powers kind of deal.
Yeah, I'm gonna, and then I'm gonna rebuttal with Dream Master because Dream Child made no sense. I like the idea, but it I like the idea, but it didn't execute properly, which leaves you going, what is this mess that's going on?
That's very true.
That's 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 the
So
great thing about opinions. But so I
that
guess that means we flip flop on the next one,
yep, Dream
I assume.
Master is
Wait, you know what? I take that back. I take that back because I completely forgot, and I'm what did I say? Dream Warriors, Nightmare on Elm Street,
oh crap, no, yep,
Freddy's
you're right.
Dead. I'm actually gonna go with
I for
Nightmare 2.
I was about to say I forgot about Nightmare 2 is number 4. It definitely comes before the Dream Master and Dream Child
Yeah,
movies.
yeah. I'm gonna put that higher up because I can't believe I actually forgot it. But we were kind of running on a tangent of, and that's the problem with Freddy's Revenge is that no one ever remembers
It's a
Freddy's Revenge.
decent movie, but when you think of the Nightmare on Elm Street series, you don't think of that one. Like nobody pops into their head, Freddy's Revenge. I'm like,
It's
yeah,
it's
okay.
kind of it's kind of like it's like you have Nightmare on Elm Street, you have the original movie, and then you almost have like a fork in the road where one way goes Freddy's Revenge, but everyone wants to take the other path that goes like straight to like Dream Warriors. Because Dream Warriors does have a bit more continuation to it than
Yep. So
I I in my opinion, Freddy's Revenge is it's a good movie. It's got a lot of interesting concepts. I think the only problem with it and why I usually tend to forget about it is because nothing ever references it like later on
no, yeah,
ever.
yeah,
I mean, even in later films, they at least reference the first movie with Glenn and stuff, but this one's just like Jesse disappears forever.
yeah.
I think he becomes like a book character. Like he makes a prominent character in like one of the books, and that was about it.
Yeah, so I put that at number 4, then it's Dream Child, then Dream Master. And then I
Yeah,
think we
yeah.
can all agree that Freddy's Dead is sitting at the bottom of this list, all the way at the tail
Oh,
end of
yeah.
it. And even though it was a fun movie to watch, we had a lot of laughs. It was not good at all.
You're only gonna get through that if you watch it with friends. If you watch it by yourself, you might as well just turn it off, call it a night, because I couldn't sit through that by myself. There's no way I couldn't take it seriously by myself.
So
I need
now,
well, not that I could take it seriously to begin with.
yeah, that's true too. Now that we've kind of gone through the entirety of the original set of Nightmare on Elm Street movies, before we get into the crossovers and before the remakes, obviously, those will come later, we have finished A Nightmare on Elm Street. Jason, how do you feel now that we have literally spent the last 7 weeks watching these movies every week and talking about them? Do you feel, do you like the movies more now than you did before?
I can say that I do actually like them more. And it's weird to say because I've always kind of liked Nightmare on Elm Street. I've liked the idea of Nightmare on Elm Street, but usually I don't know how most people watch TV nowadays. I don't have a whole lot of TV time. Usually I'm just browsing Netflix or something, like an episode or two to watch, and usually I'm on the Xbox playing games. But um, to actually sit down and watch a series of movies, one movie every week, especially movies that you haven't seen in a while, I went into this going, okay, here's your good movies. Nightmare 1, good movie. Freddy's Revenge, don't remember that one. Dream Warrior, great movie. Master, gone. Child, gone. Freddy's Dead, gone. This one kind of swept to the side. Didn't really care about it. But then you go back and you watch and you go, wow, actually, Dream Master's not that bad. Wow, I actually enjoyed Freddy's Revenge. Dream Child, not that great of a movie, but the idea is pretty cool. Freddy's Revenge or Freddy's Dead, you just stay back there. You're done. Still really funny, and a few of the effects in it and stuff like that, still pretty cool, but not that great. And this one just kind of opened my eyes again. I was like, wow, I knew it was like a meta movie, but I didn't realize it was that good. So yeah, I do think that um, rewatching these movies kind of in a smaller time frame
I,
actually does make it a bit more cohesive and fun.
I have a new respect for the series for those same reasons. You see all this new stuff, and you're watching it and you're thinking about it and stuff like that. Like I have a whole new respect for everything that went into making all of them, all the ideas that were brought into it, and all of the good executions and bad executions. Like you said, Freddy's Dead can just stay way over there, and
No,
unless I'm
it
with friends and having a beer or something, I'm not gonna sit down and probably watch that movie. For
yeah, it should get like the room treatment. Just need to get a bunch of drunk people in a room.
So now that we have finished, though, I think it's time we unveil our next series. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's about time.
Counselors, without further ado, I'd like to reveal our next series. And there it is.
Ooh,
It's
that's my boy Jason.
Friday
Fish.
the 13th.
Oh
That's
boy, this is gonna be a long one.
that's the new backdrop.
Ooh, I like it.
It's
That's sleek, sexy. That screams murder me. Oh god,
oh,
I don't know what I'm
and
doing anymore.
like Jason said, we are in for a doozy of a time because we've got what 10 movies? Yeah.
Um,
Well, you
if
had
we're if we're yeah, if we're doing the time frame like we had originally scheduled, we're gonna do Friday the 13th 1 through 10, and I think we had talked about doing
then we were gonna do Freddy versus Jason, and then the two
yeah,
remakes.
this is the reason because there might be a couple people there who's going, why, well, you still got to do Freddy versus Jason. Well, this is the reason why we're gonna tie it in. The Freddy versus Jason come out at the end of this run, and then we'll do the remakes to Nightmare and 13th, which we know which one is good on that one. But oh, this is gonna be a lot. This is a lot of watching, a lot of watching, a lot of. Okay, let's make some predictions, Jeremy.
All right.
Let's make some predictions, okay? Let's make some predictions since we got a few minutes left.
Fantasy movie day or fantasy movie night. it's like
Fan-
it's like
fantasy,
fantasy horror movies. It's like fantasy football except with horror movies.
except with horror movies. Um, first question:
All right.
which movie do you think you're gonna like the most? Now I know you've watched all of them several times. I'm pretty familiar with all of them, but which movie going back? Because remember, it was different with Nightmare. You had a one that you liked, you had one that you didn't like, but you came out with a different perspective on it. So, front to back, which one do you think is going to be the best one that you're going to like? You're going to like the most.
Even though we can't watch it in 3D, I'm gonna say part three.
Ooh, part three. It's a good one. Good one. I'm gonna go with. Uh, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. I want to say. I want to say maybe part two.
Okay.
Part two, and
Sackler and Jason.
yeah, because he wears that throughout like the entire. Yeah, because he gets the hockey mask in the third one. Fine.
All right.
Yeah.
And then, second question: which one do you think you will like the least?
Ooh, which I'm gonna like the least. Ooh, I'll start this one off. I think the one I'm gonna like the least, Jason Takes Manhattan.
I was actually gonna say that one too. Not even a
It's
lie.
either gonna be that one
Oh
or
no, no, my bad. It's Jason Goes to Hell.
why is it always at the tail end that the movies start getting really bad?
It's Jason Goes to Hell, all the way.
You would think maybe Jason X, but I think that one's just way too humorous
Oh
to
yes.
hate. I mean, it's Jason in space. In space. Freddy never made it to space.
It's pretty sad that a
That's not. That's
leprechaun
not.
beat Freddy Krueger to space. Just saying.
Yeah. So did Pinhead. Pinhead made it to space before. Pinhead's an astronaut.
All right, and
So
last question. Um, I might save this to the end. Which one do you think is going to surprise you the most?
we go with part five.
I'm going to say part. I'm going to say part four, the final chapter.
Oh yeah, that was a good one too. That was a good one. That one had Corey Feldman. That was the Corey Feldman one. I think part five because spoiler alerts. It's not the Jason everyone knows or always talks about. I like it when we play Friday the 13th again. We have nicknames for him. This is fake Jason. This is Tool Man Taylor Jason because he's got the tool belt and everything.
You got
This is
Sack Man.
You got burlap sack Jason. This is the Jason everyone loves. This is Jason from like part 6 or 7. No, part like 7 or 8. He's got like droopy eye Jason. He's like you know.
I
And that's the great thing about Jason is that he comes in all sorts of flavors. I think in every movie he has a different look. He's never the same.
Tim the Tool Man Jason. That one
And
was
then you got scary Mountain Man remake Jason. Jesus, he's scary.
well,
He's scary.
counselors. That's all we have for y'all today. Thank you for joining us on this uh, moment. It's our first series complete for the podcast. Now we're
Yeah,
getting ready to dive into Friday the 13th. Um,
we
very
can finally say
popular series, and we'll be able to tie it in towards the end. But until next time, we will see you next Wednesday, same campfire, same time, and don't forget movie night Monday, Friday the 13th. We'll be there. Y'all have a great night. Be
see.
safe.
Later, guys.